You go into your shower feeling, but as soon as you reach for the Irish Spring, your day immediately gets better. That crisp, fresh, unmistakable Irish Spring scent zings your brain and awakens your senses. So when you finally emerge from the shower, 37 minutes later, because you pay the water bill so you can stay in there as long as you want, you're ready to take on the day and smell great doing it. Irish Spring Body Wash and Bar Soap. Fresh, green, Irish. Shop now at Walmart.
From breathtaking cliff dives to the mega rush of free-ride mountain biking, Red Bull harnessed 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to put adrenaline on display. Relying on the strength of our 5G network, Red Bull powered POV drones to deliver unmatched views while broadcasting in real time from some of the most remote locations in America. This is heart-pounding fan experiences. This is Red Bull with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant pride.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
Hello, everybody. It's Monday morning. Welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. I am John Schmeelk, joined by Paul Dottino. The phone number for you is 201-939-4513. We're still dealing with just the one line, folks. We're working on it. So if you're trying to get in and it's busy or it keeps ringing through, just keep trying. As soon as the line clears, we will certainly try to get you up, and we'll take as many of your calls today as we possibly can. If you were up late last night and listened to our post-game show, you kind of already know what we're thinking. That's on the Giants Media Pass podcast as well if you want to check that out. But we'll do a quick summation here, and then we will get to your calls as quickly as we can. Paul, very briefly, I'm going to start with a blanket statement here. The offense stunk. It was not good enough to score 7 points against a team that has allowed more than 24 in each of their last 4 games, allowed 41 points lastly to the Ravens. You looked at any of the advanced metrics in the game heading into it, just to give you a couple, so fans have an idea exactly what we're dealing with here. In terms of overall, the Bengals defense heading into this game, they were 31st in success rate allowed, 30th in EPA per player allowed, 22nd in DVOA allowed. I mean, go through it. The numbers were poor. The rush and the pass defense were equally bad. I'll give you some of the numbers: 27th in rush EPA, 29th in pass EPA, 27th in success rate against the pass, 32nd against the run. Their defense was bad. Heading into this game, I said last week I thought they'd have to score a minimum of 27. They might have had to score 30. I'm sure you were in relatively the same neighborhood based on how the Bengals offensive had played, scoring at least 34 points in each of the last 3 games against some teams that really actually are not bad football teams. So that was what our mindset was heading into this game. And to walk out thinking that the Giants scored just 7 points, you're just not going to win football games doing that. Plenty of blame to spread around. Obviously, the most important player on offense is the quarterback. It starts there. But I went back, rewatched the tape. A ton of missed opportunities in the first half. The interception in the red zone is a play you can't make. Daniel said that in the post-game show. Brian Dable said that as well. You got to take that sack or figure out a way to take intentional grounding. Literally anything but what you did is what you have to do on that play.
In other words, keep the ball and live for another day.
Yeah, correct. And you know what? If you take that sack, and I guess we'll start here then, Paul, it's 1st and 10 at the 14-yard line. You take that sack, what is it, 2nd and 17 at the 19-yard line, 21-yard line, whatever. That's fine. You can gain 7 or 8 yards on the next pass and then have a chance on 3rd and long. You cannot, under any circumstances, try to force that pass to the back of the end zone, whether you're trying to throw it away or get it to the receiver. But based on what everyone said, it sounds like he was trying to throw it away. You can't make that play there, especially when you drive down the field, you're trying to put points on the board, get your first touchdown in front of your home crowd in the first half of this game, and your 3rd home game of the year. You simply cannot make that play.
No, because his attempt at throwing that ball away winds up allowing B.J. Hill to hit his arm and flutter the ball into an interception. And he put himself in a bad position by not eating the ball. See, you know what Eli Manning would have done? He would have eaten the ball. because as we all know, Eli protected himself well, and a lot of times people got mad because they said he took too many sacks.
Or he would have seen, frankly, the rusher coming earlier and just flung it out of bounds.
Either way. But the point being, you need to live for another down. And so that was, to me, the most critical mistake that Daniel Jones made during the course of the game. But there was certainly a lot of different blames to go around. The thing that gets me, John,
and the other one I'll add to before we move past the quarterback, I rewatched it this morning on that deep over route. Wanda Robinson had about 5 or 6 yards of separation. You got to connect on that throw.
Yeah.
It's not that difficult of a throw. It's not like a tough go right on the sideline where you got a narrow area to fit the ball in. He has margin for error on that throw.
Yes.
To get it in there.
Yes.
And in a game like that, you have to connect on those types of throws. Anyway, now go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. If you were to ask Jimmy, the security guard outside the press box, he would tell you I had 27-17 Giants, believe it or not. I believe they would hold Cincinnati under 20. I thought they were going to control the narrative of the game like we said during the pregame show. And ironically, the Giants had the ball for 34 minutes. They outdid the Bengals first down-wise 24-13.
Yeah, I think they 14 more offensive plays than the Bengals did?
Mm-hmm. So according to the narrative and the path to victory that the Giants would have scripted, those things went correctly. The problem is...
Well, they didn't score any points on those plays is the problem.
Bingo.
And that's kind of the whole point of the whole thing, right?
But it's...
Don't make me quote Lance Meadow. Don't make me quote Lance.
I know.
Time of possession doesn't matter unless you do something with it.
I get it.
I'll quote Lance all day to you,
Absolutely. Well, besides the squandered opportunity on the interception, the Giants also had 2 missed field goals, although one was garbage time.
Yep.
Understood. Now, had Joseph made the first one with 10.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, that ties the game at 10-10. How does that change the narrative in the final 10 minutes of the game? Could be an entirely different ball game if he makes that field goal. Furthermore, if he makes the first field goal with 10.5 to go, does Brian Daboll go for a second field goal the next time they get in that range rather than go for the fourth down? He might.
It's a good question, and the score at that point is different. Yeah. Look, to your point, it changes the whole tenor of how the end of the game goes.
And that's the spider web that I talk about all the time, right? So I'm not going to excuse Daniel Jones's interception, folks. Please, I know I'm a Daniel Jones backer. I'm not here to excuse him. I'm not.
He did not play well.
He did not play well.
Yeah.
Okay, it was not his worst game of the year. I thought Minnesota was worse.
Yeah, I agree with that.
This was his second worst game of the year. And then he had 4 other very good games, which included one terrific game.
2 of which he didn't score enough touchdowns in. But yes, he did play well in those games, yes.
So that's where my reality is for Daniel Jones. Having said all of that, yes, in my opinion, the kicking situation, albeit there's nothing else they could do, Graham Gano was hurt. They went and they got a professional kicker. And
you have to make a 47-yard.
You got to.
I mean, you just have to.
You got to. That was a very, very critical play, that first field goal in the fourth quarter, not just for the 3 points, but it sets up the rest of the game. That's huge.
Yeah, that would have made it 10-10.
Yes.
With 10:27 remaining in the game.
And then, of course, look at their next possession when they go for the fourth down.
Yeah.
Now, maybe if he makes the first one, Daboll says, okay, kick it again.
It's a 54-yarder.
I don't know if he makes it.
I don't know if he
here's
kicks
what I
that for
Here's what I said to a
54.
friend of mine today who messaged me.
Because remember, on the last possession, they could have tried like a 54-yarder, and Daboll thought that was a little bit out of Joseph's range, so they might have went for it on that 4th and 2.
So here. But if you have the tie at that point, maybe you're going for the lead points.
Right, I'm just talking about the way Daboll talked about Joseph's range, though.
Understood.
That it seems like that might have been a little out of it.
Now, a friend of mine asked me this morning, do you think if they had a healthy Graham Gano, it changes things? Because that dude is virtually automatic.
No, it wasn't last year, but yes.
Well, he was hurt last year. He tried to kick hurt. But this is where the value of a tremendously reliable kicker comes into play, because it cost them the Washington game, and now it helped them, didn't do it, but helped them lose this game, not having a reliable kicker.
And I'll go a couple other items on offense here, just very quickly. The offensive line wasn't nearly as good as it was in previous weeks.
Not at all.
I thought their pass protection was okay, and the metrics agree with that. 9th best pressure rate allowed in the league. This in 32% pressure rate by the Bengals, which was the 9th best. But they got no movement in the run game.
No.
The guards and centers, and even Illuminor had some issues on some of his reach blocks. They had a lot of issues. Last week we lauded the job the wide receivers did. I thought they failed to dig out a couple of those corners and safeties inside, coming in from the slot on a couple of those run plays as well. So they just could not run the ball well.
One drive, John. The 16-play drive, 11 runs, 5 passes.
And by the way...
And that was the only drive that I saw some real grit out of the run blocking.
And their run efficiency on that drive wasn't even great either.
It wasn't
All
great,
right?
but it moved the chains. They had 2 fourth-down runs that were converted.
Right. I agree with that. But I'll give you the runs on the drive. Tracy starts it up with a run for 9. Then Daniel Jones runs for 2. That's on a quarterback sneak. Then Tracy runs for 2. Then on a 3rd and 2, Tracy runs for 0. Then on a 4th and 2, Tracy has to make an unbelievable move to avoid 2 interior guys to run for 4. Then Tracy runs for 2. Then you have Eric Gray for 6. And then you have a 5-yard run and a 5-yard run. So it got a little bit better later. But even so, it's not like they're getting 8 or 9 yards of pop on that drive. So I know you did. So Tracy finishes 17 carries for about 50 yards, 3 yards, just under 3 yards per carry. And they didn't get to the run early in this game either. On their their 3 drives, their first 3 drives in this game, they only had 2 running back runs. Now, I know a lot of people have said, well, the Bengals defense is terrible against run. You got to run the ball. Well, guys, the Bengals defense was also terrible against the pass. So I just want to be fair.
That's true.
You can pick your weakness and attack it. It's not
true.
like one was worse than the other. They were terrible at both. But I will say this. This was the first game the Bengals had their full defensive line healthy. And we talked to Dave Lapham about that before the game with B.J. Hill, who, by the way, was unbelievable in this game. He was a game wrecker. It was better on tape than it was watching it live. And Sheldon Rankins was back too. So my guess is that those 2 guys being there had a lot to do. And based on the tape, the Giants guards and centers, as I said, had a lot of trouble getting movement. Unlike last week against Seattle when they moved Leonard Williams and Jonathan Hankins, they did not move B.J. Hill and Sheldon Rankins around in this game.
It's true.
So you could not get the run game going early, whether it was efficiency, success perspective, or even an attempts perspective. And combine that with the inefficiencies in the pass game. Only 2 drops in this game from what I remember from Slayton.
I also wrote down 2.
So and then the one big play you get in the pass game, you get the illegal man downfield, which, by the way, was the exact right call. Andrew Thomas was a good 5 yards downfield.
It was legit.
It was the correct call on an RPO. He has to know not to get downfield on that. And this is the final stat I'll give in the offense, and this is telling to me. You're not going to win many games, Paul, when your longest play from scrimmage is 15 yards. Now, the Giants did have 4 of them. I will give credit to that. They had 3 passes. Actually, all 4 passes, pardon me, that went for 15 yards in this game. 2 now. 1 was on that final garbage time drive. So really 3 plays of 15 yards. You're not how many times have I said this on the show, guys? If you want to score points, you have to have explosive plays. Explosive plays lead to points. And is a 15-yard play technically an explosive play? Depending on what kind of metric you're going to use, sure. But it's not. Bengals had plays of 47 yards, 33 yards, 30 yards, 29 yards, 24 yards in this game. The Bengals had 5 plays longer than the Giants' longest play, by at least 9 yards longer. All 5 of the Bengals' plays. If you're not going to get explosive plays, and that's why I brought up that over route to Wanda Robinson, there are also a couple. You did have a DPI that was, I think, a plus 17 yards or so to Slayton down the right sideline.
Right.
Jalen Hyatt failed to get off Cam Taylor-Britt when he was bumping him on the right sideline. And then you had another play where Jones overthrew Slayton down the right sideline. So if you're not going to connect on explosive plays, and if your offensive line's not going to dominate the run game, it's going to be extremely hard for you to score touchdowns. And then if you're not going to get those explosive plays when you get down there, you sure as hell better score points when you do. And the Giants had 3 times inside Bengals territory in this game where they came away with 0 points. Actually, with the other 4th down, it might even be 4. I got to see where that
4.
I got to see where that first 4th down failure in the second half came from. I got to double check that. But the bottom line is that the few times they moved the ball in the Bengals territory, too many times they came up with no points.
Interception, 4th down failure, 2 missed field goals. That's four right
fourth
there.
down. Oh, that was the second fourth down
Yeah.
failure. Yeah, the first fourth down failure was in Giants territory.
Right.
The second one was in Bengals
So it's 4 for
territory.
the
Correct.
game.
It is 4 for the game. That's correct.
And
You can't have it.
no.
Not against the Bengals team like this.
And
You
that,
can't.
and you know, it's tough enough to do that in any game. You do that to Joe Burrow, even on a day when the defense tried to corral him and to limit his damage as much as possible, he still made enough plays to do it. And the real killer, John. How many times have I already watched the 47-yard scramble, which you're looking at right now?
Right now.
Now, watch what happens here. Watch all the players on the left side of the Bengals offense.
Oh, you're a man defense. They're watching the receivers.
Man defense, and the Bengals moved their running back motion left. It was like a basketball clear out.
Well, yeah, they only had one receiver, the running back to the right, and he's very tight to the line. He runs a crosser, so I'm guessing that's Drew Phillips. I can't see the number. He has to follow him across. No, that's Okereke, actually. He has to
Right.
follow Chase
So
Brown across the field.
Correct.
And then it clears out, and nobody loops. The way they have the defensive line set up with it overloaded to the right, it looks like the play's designed that Simmons should loop into that hole to create a balanced line, right? But he ends up rushing straight in, and you have this gaping hole between the right tackle and the right guard. And look, I give the Bengals offensive coaching staff credit. They saw what Geno Smith did last week, and they set up a play to take advantage of that. But you cannot have that large of a gap in your defensive line if you're not going to have a spy and you're going to play man-to-man defense. You have to have a more disciplined rush.
The spy would have been the way to counteract that, the way that lined up, because
or you just can't have that type of unbalanced rush plan. One or the other. It's one or the other.
But the left defensive tackle was Chapman on the play. He's the left defensive tackle. Ojulari is wide on the edge.
Which, by the way, you should be on a third
Which
and
is
18.
fine.
You should be wide.
Which is fine.
Correct.
He takes the wraparound edge move. Watch. Ojulari goes
he's trying to
around
win
the edge,
outside.
and here comes Chapman plowing his straight up field.
Well, Chapman does loop around Dex. Look, Dex goes in at nose tackle. Chapman's the right defensive tackle. He does loop on a stunt around
but
Dex.
he comes straight up.
But he doesn't go wide enough on the loop. That's correct.
That's my point. And I'm not blaming Chapman for this. I'm not. But the way it develops, he comes straight at Burrow, and unfortunately that leaves this big triangle of space between Ojulari and Chapman.
Yeah, so Simmons
and Burrow just takes off.
The Simmons replaces Chapman where he loops from. So he did the right thing, but Chapman doesn't get a wide enough loop.
That's my interpretation.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I think that's probably correct.
Hard to say.
No,
He's a
I'm with
rookie.
you.
I don't know, but that's my interpretation. I'm not hanging him out to dry, but Burrow did a great job of seeing through the windshield and saw the gap.
It could be, too, that maybe they told Ojulari on that and he's not supposed to go that wide. Maybe he's supposed to have more of a interior
Possibly.
rush on that, depending on how that play's set up. I don't know the answer to that. No
I
one
would
does.
say that's unlikely, but possible.
Correct. I just
This
don't
is
know.
why I get all tongue-tied with these grades and analytics people, because we sit here and we're telling you what the possibilities are, but we don't even know.
No, correct. And I'll talk to Bone this week. I'll see what he tells me. But
all right, so now
do you want to go to the defense, or do you want one more thing on the offense?
no, actually, oh, go ahead. Yeah, let it go. Let it go.
If you want to hit on the offense, you give me one more thing.
Well,
What do you got?
Here's what troubled me. The other part of this that troubled me. I thought, John, that much like in the first part of the season, people said they were concentrating too much on Neighbors, right? You heard some of those criticisms. They're pumping him much too much.
Which I never agreed with, but fine.
I'm not saying that we agree.
Yes.
I'm saying that was a comment.
Yeah.
I did think last night there was a little too much reliance on Slayton.
They spread the ball around, didn't they?
I would like to have seen them spread it around more.
I mean, honestly, and here's the other thing I'll say about the offense, too, and I'm happy you brought this up, Paul. Rewatching the game, guys were not getting open.
No.
In this game.
No. I said last night.
Even on plays where Daniel Jones bought some extra time, guys were not separating down the field.
I thought the Bengals secondary
They played
was
pretty well.
cheating. They were coming in and attacking and charging and closing. Slayton had 11 targets last night. Now,
So did Wan'Dale Robinson.
Wan'Dale Robinson did too. Okay, but a lot of his stuff is,
Right.
that short stuff.
And Hyatt has to do a better job getting separation, too. People keep asking for Hyatt. Well, at some point, Hyatt has to make himself available.
I mean, Theo Johnson, 3 for 30.
Yeah. Tyron Tracy had 6 targets in the game.
Now, Theo had 5 catches, I think, in Seattle. Hyatt, you're right. On that one play where he had a chance to make a play, he did not get enough room. It's Hodgins. I know he's just coming off the practice squad a couple weeks ago, but, we've seen him produce something in the past. He gets one.
And I'll say this, too, and I'm with you. And then there were a couple times in the second half where I thought there were a couple opportunities to make plays down the field, and those were a couple of the plays where the offensive line gave up pressure.
Yeah.
So I think you did miss out on a couple of opportunities down the field where Jones could not hold the ball. I'd have to go back in my notes. I think, I'm trying to remember what 2 players there were, but there was 1 or 2 where they might have a chance to get the ball downfield, but the line allowed pressure on those plays.
Let me see here. Darius Slayton, how high do you think that target share is for him? I bet you it might be first or second career highs. 11 targets in one game for Slayton is an awful lot.
Yeah, look it up.
That's
I'm curious.
Awful.
Are you a morning person? Or when you roll out of bed, do you literally roll out of bed? Listen, mornings can be hard to handle. From the moment you open your eyes, your responsibilities and to-dos start piling up in your head. But you know what helps? Yep, a shower. But not just any shower, a shower with Irish Spring. Yeah, as soon as you reach for the Irish Spring, your day immediately gets better.
Oh, yeah.
All those to-dos are totally doable. Because that crisp, fresh, unmistakable Irish Spring scent zings your brain and awakens your senses. So when you finally emerge from that glorious shower, 37 minutes later, because let's be honest, you pay the water bill so you can stay in there as long as you want. You're ready to take on the day. And smell great doing it. Irish Spring Body Wash and Bar Soap. Fresh, green, Irish. Look for Irish Spring in the soap aisle at Walmart.
All right, defensively, guys, look, I have to. We talked about the one really bad play on the Burrow run. You had the, Yoshivas late kind of broke away from Jason Pinnock to get that big first down late. You had the very tough contested catch on Jamar Chase where, I forget, I think I wrote it down. Was it Nubin that had double team coverage over the top and he kind of left when Burrow started to scramble and that allowed the one-on-one catch? When in the game was that deep ball?
I'm looking.
That deep ball,
I'm looking.
to Chase.
I'm looking.
I wrote down my notes on that. I don't remember exactly what play it was. But the bottom line is, overall, this defense played as well as you possibly could. Like, when you talk about a team that leads the NFL in sacks,
6.5 minutes left in the third quarter.
6.5 in the third. Let's
33
see.
yards to Chase.
Well, no, it can't be 6.5 left in the third quarter. Oh, wait.
Yeah, right here.
No, the Giants had the ball at 6.5 minutes to go in the third quarter.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got the time wrong. It was It was this.
5:48. I got it right here.
5:48. Yep.
Yeah. Here's how the Giants did their coverage in the secondary for fans that didn't focus during the game. And I thought I saw a game day, but I wanted to wait to look at it today before I knew for sure. So they put Flott on Jamar Chase and had a safety over the top of him pretty much the entire game. Mm-hmm. So it was the old Belichick thing. You take your number 2 corner, you give him help against the other team's number 1. In which case, it wasn't really true double team. It was just having a safety over the top. Sometimes man help on that side. Sometimes cover 2 on that side. He always had help over the top. Mm-hmm. And Flott, for the most part, did a good job. He was fortunate Chase dropped that cross over the middle. That could have been a big gain.
Yes.
But it is what it is. And then they had Banks on Higgins without help. Now, T. Higgins caught a couple passes in this game. Short stuff, nothing crazy. Banks did fine. Was he great? No. Was he terrible? No. Burrow did pass up a couple one-on-one chances down the field where Banks had decent coverage, but as T. Higgins, I figured he might want to just throw it up because he's T. Higgins and he's awesome, and he never actually did that.
Higgins showed incredibly strong hands on that one catch from Banks.
Multiple catches, I thought, reaching out and pulling the ball in.
Wow. That's why he's T. Higgins.
That's why he's a really good player, exactly.
And that's why they got the best duo in the league.
Correct.
Right?
So that's how the Giants worked their pass defense, and for the most part, it worked. They kept the Bengals under control.
Yeah.
Burrow made a couple of hero plays on scrambles where he made throws down the field. But look, you're facing Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. You're going to have plays like that. Mm-hmm. It's going to happen. The bottom line is that they gave up 17 points to the Bengals, and that should have been good enough to win.
I know.
And in the pregame, we talked about how even though the Giants led the league with 22 sacks, you didn't really get the sense that they had the best pass rush in the league watching week in, week out. They got the sacks, but you didn't feel it was like a constant deluge of pressure on the opposing quarterback. Last night watching it live and rewatching it this morning, that's what it felt like. They had constant pressure in the backfield, whether it was Ojulari, whether it was Brian Burns. I didn't realize it at the time, Paul. The reason Joe Burrow short-armed that crossing route in the back of the end zone that should have been a touchdown, that he was open, I think it was Yoshivas. Nacho pushed the guard back, and the guard either stepped on Burrow's foot or hit his front leg, which forced him to underthrow that pass, which would have been a touch. I was wondering, I can't believe Joe Burrow missed that throw. That's an easy throw for him. Well, it's because Nacho pushed the guy back, and he forced him to underthrow it. Dexter Lawrence had the one cleanup sack. They were double-teaming him the entire game. But
Burns played extremely well.
He was fantastic. And, he only had the one sack, but he had pressure on others that, and there were some plays to be made down the field if they didn't get pressure on those plays. You watch the video, there are plays to be made, but the pressure got home on those plays, which is why you invest all that money on a pass rush to protect your secondary a little bit. So Ojulari was great. He should have had a third sack. I still don't know what he was doing, letting Joe Burrow go on that play inside the 5-yard line.
It looked like they were waiting for the music to play so they could waltz.
It reminded me of the Kiwanuka play against the Titans. What was that?
Young.
12. But against Bryce Young, like 12, 13 years ago. Not Bryce Young.
The other Young.
Vince Young. Around 13, 14 years ago. Or maybe it might have been 15 years ago now.
A long, long time ago. But, in fact, I even said to Casillas, did he let him go because he thought that Burrow got rid of the ball and he was afraid to get a roughing the passer?
Was he trying to take the ball out of his hands?
I don't know.
I don't know what he was trying to do on that. Either way, the pass rush was really good. And the run defense was good. There wasn't a lot of room for the Bengals to run the ball. So the front did their job. The secondary, for the most part, except for a couple of those scramble, off-schedule plays, they did a pretty good job too. The defense, I'm sorry, I cannot ding the defense in this game. I know there are a couple plays you want back here or there, whatever. 17 points to the Bengals. If you told me before the game that's how many points they would have given up, I would have signed 13 times over. They forced the Bengals to punt 6 times in this game. 6 punts. That's a really good number. Defense was great. Not their fault.
The 11 targets, 2 weeks in a row now for Slayton. Without Neighbors, he got 11 targets apiece. Did not have any double-digit targets last year. The year before, he had one 10-target game. I mean, this is an inordinate number of balls that are being thrown his way. The year before, 0 double-digit targets. Year before that, 1 11-target game. And the year before that as a rookie, 1 15-target game.
So this is second highest target share. 11 is tied for second highest target share.
And considering he's been around now for a handful of years.
That's significant.
I thought they were pumping him a little too much. But it is what it is.
All right, 201-939-4513. You got anything else before we get to the calls here, Paul?
Yeah, the final thing, and I know, it's just the way the ball bounces, and it's nobody's fault. But man, when McFadden rips that ball out of Chase Brown at the end of the game, I mean, folks, it just feels like the karma's against you, because everything that's happened to the Giants to that point, they've done a lot of things that got them beat.
Self-sabotage.
Got them beat. They put themselves in their position. They made their bed. They spilled their milk.
Yeah.
Right? And then here comes McFadden, grabbing at the ball and knocks it free. Didn't punch at it. Actually stripped it out. And Pinnock tries to dive on it. And like a stick of butter, it just squirts away and goes out of bounds. And there's Flott chasing at the very end, watching the ball go out of bounds, and I could feel his pain. The entire stadium, John, I was on the field at that point. The entire stadium just went from all of a sudden, like incredibly gasps of air, like, look, no.
Yeah, I know. You could hear it. Yeah, I know. Giants were 8th in pressure rate, by the way, this week. 40% against Joe Burrow. Bengals had the lowest pressure rate allowed in the league at under 25% heading into this week. So really nice job by the front of the pass rush. They played well enough to win. They deserve better. 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. The rapid reaction from last night, it's Madeline Burke and Sean O'Hara is up there in the Giants Huddle podcast. Folks, you can find that on Giants.com, the Giants app, or just search for Giants Huddle or Giants Podcast Network on your favorite podcast platform. 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. James is in Georgia. Will lead us off. Hi, James.
What's going on, guys?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
So, John, I told you Thursday that this was going to happen and you could sign up for it, that the Giants defense is playing their brand of football, and it doesn't matter who we're playing on offense, because whether a team gives up or puts up 40 points the week before, they're not putting up 40 points, 30 points on the Giants defense. We haven't done it all year. The proof is there. The Shane Bowen defense with Dexter Lawrence, we're not allowing teams to put up 30 points.
Well, James, I will tell you this. I'm with you. Like I said, I thought 27-17 Giants, and I nailed the Bengals score. But, again, do understand, the Bengals only had the ball for 26 minutes time of possession.
They only had 50 offensive plays in the game.
And that's part of that complementary football thing, right? That's part of the design. Your offense is supposed to control the narrative of the game and then score.
No, but James, you
put points on the
James,
board
you are correct.
while helping the defense.
James, you are correct, though. The Giants' defense is playing some very good football the last 2 weeks against two good offenses in Seattle and the Bengals, and they deserve a ton of credit for that. And, frankly, they're further along than I thought they would be at this point of the year.
Yeah.
Give them credit.
Hey, I got mocked when I said before the season this could be a top 10 defense in the league. People thought I was nuts. I still think that's the case.
No, we aren't there yet, but yes.
They can be.
My last point, there's no point in crying over spilled milk, but it's okay to say Daniel Jones is in it as well. And none of our first-round picks on offense, including Malik Neighbors, showed up to work yesterday. Y'all covered all the points and what went wrong in the game, and 7 points on offense isn't good enough to beat the Dodgers. You know what I mean?
That's true, too. But it was enough to beat the Mets.
Hey, James, look, and James, appreciate the call. Look, Malik Neighbors has a head injury. I mean,
right.
Even if he wanted to play, the league wouldn't let him. So there's nothing you can do there. And Thibodeau has a wrist injury. I mean, I'm not sure what you're asking for there either.
Well, surgery, IR, get used to it. He's out for the next 3 weeks. But, hey, Azeez Ojulari, again, give him another pat on the back because he did what he needed to do.
Yeah, and we'll keep an eye on Andrew Thomas's injury with his foot.
Right.
Brian Dable will talk at 1:40 today. If history is any guide, we're probably not going to find out much today about what's going on with that.
That's for sure.
So hopefully on Wednesday we'll have something for you in terms of what his deal is and potentially if he's going to miss any time, if he does miss time, how much time is he going to miss, which would obviously be a very, very tough blow to the Giants, and we'll see. We talked about in the postgame show whether or not they would slide Illuminor to left tackle and put Neal at right tackle or just put Azudu at left tackle. Those would be the two options. We'll have to see exactly what they decide to do. Since we're not out of practice, guys, it's very difficult to see exactly what they would choose to do in that spot. It's kind of us guessing based on feel. And that's kind of where we're at. The Giants right now 17th in DVOA defensively, which is a pretty decent spot, right smack in the middle of the league. So,
well, considering who they played.
And they played better the last couple of weeks. So I'm with you on that. 201-939-4513. Lou in Virginia is up next. Hi, Lou.
Hey, guys. How are you?
We're good.
Not a good Monday at all. Not like last week.
Nope.
I don't know what we have to do to be able to win at night or for us to be good 1 week and then anytime we play it at home, we're inept at everything we do. It's ridiculous.
And Lou, frankly, this year, and it's not just the night this year, it's just at home. I mean, the Viking game wasn't at home, and they didn't score in the Viking game either. So you got to figure out what's going on in that building because
it's horrible, man.
It's not good.
The Dallas game too.
Maybe we need to wear the white jerseys at home like the Cowboys do.
Okay.
Lou, I'm not sure that's it, but I'm willing to try anything at this point.
Remember, they didn't wear white against Minnesota. That was the Century Red, and that didn't bode well on them.
The Cowboys
we never
blue,
win
so that didn't go well for them either.
Special jerseys, so we should forget about that altogether. All right, guys, I'll take the rest of it offline. Thanks.
And thank you, Lou. And we didn't talk about that. We talked about it a lot in the postgame show last night. I don't know what's going on at home here, Paul, but they need to figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
It took them 10 quarters to get a touchdown at home this year. It's a long time. They scored 1 touchdown in 3 games at home. I mean, they scored 6 against the Vikings. How many did they finish with against Dallas?
I don't even remember.
15? Did they kick 5 field goals in that game? Was it 15 or 12?
Was it 6? 6 field goals?
No, I think they
five.
might have.
It was 5 field goals.
It was 15. They scored 15.
Yeah, it was 5
right?
field goals. It was 5.
And then,
right.
and then in this game, they scored 7. So in 3 games, they've scored 28 points at home.
I mean, oh, man.
That's 9 points per game. Can't win that way.
No.
Can't win that way.
No.
And by the way, and not for nothing, while the Vikings defense is excellent, the Bengals and the Cowboys, not so much.
No.
Not so much.
No.
So It has to get better. I mean, you have to score more points if you want to win football games in the NFL and in the modern age. You have to.
I think one of the things that we talked about in the locker room after the game with some of the guys, and we mentioned this on the post-game show briefly, and again, it's a simplistic view, folks. You could have perhaps tried to run the ball more in the first half. That might have been one possible option. Another possible option is to speed up the tempo a little bit like they did in the third quarter on their touchdown drive. I get why coaches don't want to do that too much. You can wear out your guys on offense, and if you don't succeed getting first downs, you also throw your defense back on the field quickly.
Did they run no huddle in their first possession of the second half? I'm trying to remember.
No, I don't remember if it was the first possession, but it was certainly on the second one, which went
right.
for the touchdown.
No. That's I'm just trying to remember if they ran no huddle on the first possession too. I just don't remember if they did.
It's
or not.
not listed on the. Wait a minute. Let me see here.
You know what? You're right. No, it is. It is not listed on the play-by-play. So,
No.
so they did not run no huddle. They waited to the second possession of the third
Right.
quarter. Okay.
And I.
Okay, that's interesting.
I've always been a proponent of, and I'm not saying run no huddle, no game. I'm not even all game, or even for a half. I'm not saying that. But if after 2 possessions or 3 possessions, you're kind of getting caught in neutral, I'm for throw the screwball, throw the knuckleball, throw the changeup.
I'm okay with that.
Throw it. And I think sometimes, and this is not a knock on Coach Dable, as much as it's just a generic observation, I think that sometimes coaches get so caught in deep into the X's and O's that they sometimes forget that maybe the simple thing is, hey, let's just do this.
All right, let's go to Cliff in New York. He's up next. Hi, Cliff.
Hey, guys. Before I get to my points, did you say, John, there's a way of getting the post-game on the fan the next day?
Yeah. All of our post-game shows are end up going up on the Giants Media Pass podcast feed. So if you guys want to hear the post-game, it's up there. You can go check it out.
But not on the website?
No, it is only because there isn't any video. We don't put audio only up on the website. You'll have to go to the podcast feed for that.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
All right. Listen, I'm watching the game, and I see that we're stymieing them the most of the time, and then they make a play. And I don't mean just, the spectacular kind of stuff with the receivers either. It's like whenever they needed it, they found a way to make a play when they needed it. And not necessarily above the X's and O's either. Like especially on the defense, they had cornerbacks that made plays, And part of that, by the way, I don't think Daniel has confidence in anybody besides Slayton, unless Malik is on the field. But anyway, they made plays, man. And it they're supposed to make plays. That's why they were a Super Bowl contender and have been for several years, because they're more advanced than us. That seems to be a characteristic that a team gets when they're past the development that we're at. They made plays time after time after time.
Yeah, but Cliff, here's the problem. The Giants had opportunities to make plays themselves, and they squandered those opportunities. That's what's so frustrating.
That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
We don't make plays yet. we look great.
Well, you better start.
I'm wondering what it takes to start. I mean, but the really good teams do that, and it doesn't have to be a super talented thing like they did with. Well, I was so sorry to see Flott get victimized on that long one, because he was doing so great coverage most of the game.
Are you a morning person? Or when you roll out of bed, do you literally roll out of bed? Listen, mornings can be hard to handle. From the moment you open your eyes, your responsibilities and to-dos start piling up in your head. But you know what helps? Yep, a shower. But not just any shower, a shower with Irish Spring. Yeah, as soon as you reach for the Irish Spring, your day immediately gets better.
Oh, yeah.
All those to-dos are totally doable. Because that crisp, fresh, unmistakable Irish Spring scent zings your brain and awakens your senses. So when you finally emerge from that glorious shower, 37 minutes later, because let's be honest, you pay the water bill so you can stay in there as long as you want. You're ready to take on the day. And smell great doing it. Irish Spring Body Wash and Bar Soap. Fresh, green, Irish. Look for Irish Spring in the soap aisle at Walmart.
But on the Daniel play, I thought that was more the interception, I thought that was more misjudging how fast Hill was coming than a bad decision. He thought he had time, and he didn't know how fast he was coming. It reminded me of...
Well, Cliff, that's the bad decision. The bad decision is not realizing he had to get rid of the ball quicker because Hill was bearing down on him. That's the bad decision.
Cliff,
but you can't...
he was right in front of him. He was taking a straight line right to Daniel Jones's face. It wasn't a blind side, so how could you not see him?
No, you could see him, but you don't know how fast he's going. It's like when you pull up to a stop sign and you look to the left and there's a car 100 yards away and he's coming right at you.
Cliff,
You can't tell how fast he's going.
That's your job as a quarterback to know how fast he's coming. That's
all right.
That's pocket presence and pocket awareness. You have to feel it or see it, whatever.
Well, then he couldn't assume that he wasn't going to run that fast because he was just a big guy. All right.
Again, Cliff, in short, I said it before. Eli would have just said, I'm going to eat the ball, take the sack. And people would have criticized him for it, but it was the right play.
All right. Look, I still like the way Daniel is playing fullback. I love the run. I do. He's not going to get hurt that way. I don't think
Cliff,
so.
he got whacked on his shoulder. Dude, he's had 2 neck injuries. You want this guy lowering his shoulder into people?
He didn't get his neck injuries running up the middle, knocking a 250-pound linebacker backwards like he did last night.
Did you see the one shot he took to his shoulder last night?
I think I missed that.
It was hard to miss. His shoulder got absolutely squashed.
Yeah, the pad almost popped off.
I mean, I'll be frank with
Thank you, Cliff.
I was
Appreciate the
grateful
call.
when he got up and he didn't grab at that shoulder because it looked bad.
I was waiting for it too.
I mean,
he has to protect himself. I know these are design runs, and I'm not saying give up yards. The whole point you're running these design runs is to get yards, but
yeah,
dropping the shoulder and the head into linebackers, I could do without that.
So the Bengals got credit for 7 quarterback hits, right?
Sure,
and those are in the pocket on pass plays. That's what that stat's for.
Mm-hmm.
He also ran the ball 11 times.
6 quarterback hits.
Was it 6?
6.
Okay.
Yes. And then that's obviously the 2 sacks are included in that.
Yes.
So. Mm-hmm.
And then he ran the ball 11 times, and I think on all but maybe 1, he was hit. Correct?
I'm not sure if I remember him running out of bounds. It's a good question. I don't
maybe,
have that count.
Maybe 1,
So
maybe. But let's make it 10. So that's 16 hits. Just alone, Daniel Jones had to take during the course of this game, and some of them were pretty hard. That's not a great thing that you'd like to repeat week in and week out.
And that's the thing, guys. Like it's fine for a game. You get this extra yards. He runs well. It helps you move the ball. And look, his run game is a big part of what the Giants do. I'm not saying they should stop doing it. It's a big part of their offense, and it works. It's efficient. It was the most efficient part of the run game in this game against the Bengals. But just one hit the wrong way, you lose your quarterback. Then you got problems.
And there can be an accumulation
Correct.
through this that
Wear and
will
tear,
make
attrition.
will make it very dangerous for him. Look, was it Jonathan said it last night? He's unlike some of these other quarterbacks who love to slide. They'll take that baseball slide as quickly as they can. They'll run out of bounds as quickly as they can. Daniel's a guy who has this, I like what he said, running back mentality. He does that. I don't necessarily think that's a very safe way to play.
I agree. The Giants do run designed interior runs with him, though. A lot of these other teams don't run designed interior runs with their quarterbacks. And again, I don't want them to take out of the game plan. I like it being part of the game plan because it works. You get yards. It helps them move the football. And Lord knows the Giants need as many ways to move the football as they can, especially when you're missing guys like Malik Neighbors and Devin Singletary. But I think, like on a 1st and 10 run, all right, get 6 yards instead of 8 yards and don't get smashed.
Right.
I'll sacrifice the 2 yards to avoid the smash. That's all I'm saying. Look, if it's 3rd and 3 and he needs to lower his shoulder to get a first down on the 3rd and 3 or something like that, fine. I get it. But on a 1st and 10, instead of running for 8, you run for 6 and avoid getting destroyed. That's what I'm saying. Let's go back to the phones. Coach Marvin's in Delaware. Hi, Coach.
How you guys doing?
Could be better, Coach. How are you?
I'm okay. You guys are absolutely right. You're in danger. You get your quarterback trying to run through linebackers is not a safe thing to do. I don't mind him running, but if they have design runs, I like them to be where I want him to slide. I never see him slide. I always see him taking on hits. And if you keep taking those hits, eventually somebody's going to catch you. And that's just the way that league is. And I always told that to my quarterbacks. Keep running. Keep thinking, if I don't have that in the play and you just running on your own, keep running, because eventually those guys are going to catch you. And when they catch you, that might have been the last time you run for the season.
Yeah, and Coach, by the way, to Cliff's point, he said he didn't hurt his neck, lowering his neck into to linebackers. He hurt his neck against Dallas last year. I think it was Dallas, right? Falling down in the middle of the defensive line and having his neck knocked around.
Right, and I don't even get caught up in it. It don't even have to be the neck. And he did lead with his head at one time.
Yeah.
One of those plays.
Well, the neck bone's connected to the head bone, Coach.
Right, and the one thing those guys, they specialize in on the other side of the ball is hitting. On the offensive side, it's not about hitting. It's about getting hit.
And Coach, as well as I do, when they see the quarterback with the ball, they want to hit even more.
Yeah, and that's the way I was, John. On a lower level, a lot of times I faced teams where the head coach's son was the quarterback. And those were guys, I used to say, if he's going to put his son in jeopardy, then we're going to take advantage of that. And what I used to feel, make that coach feel like, if I have my kids beating your son up, eventually either you're going to stop it or you're going to let your son get beat down.
I learned something a little about you, Coach. You were a little ruthless, man. I appreciate that. That is some ruthless thinking, Coach. All right.
Well, it's a controlled violent sport. And
yes, sir. That is true.
It becomes that. It's not something that you teach throughout the game, but there's situations that those things happen. Like running back running, he has nowhere to go. You know what? Find the biggest one and try to run through him. Get your head down and run hard because you ain't got nowhere to go. So instead of letting them hit you, you hit them first. So that was a mentality we would have with our backs. Like, just don't get caught up in a trap where it's two of them and you trying to fake them both out and you have nowhere to go. You're going to have to put your head down and hit one of them before they hit you. So some situations, just like life, certain situations call for certain answers to whatever situation you're in.
You have anything else on the game, Coach, before we get to our next call?
Real quick. I've been saying this for a while. Daniel is nothing more than what he was when he was drafted. They need another receiver. Darius Slayton's doing well, but I still feel if I put him on certain teams, he's a third receiver. They're not getting open enough. And Daniel, again, ball placement, the shallow crossing on a fourth down, that ball thrown behind him. He's trying to hit him on his number. You got to lead him away from
Coach,
the defender.
That is a great point. I did not bring up that play when we talked about that off the top. I do think that fourth down play the pass was not far enough ahead of Slayton, and it gave the corner the opportunity to reach around him and knock it away. You're 100% right.
Daniel had a rough game.
It's ball placement. You got to see the defender and you got to see the receiver, and your judgment has to be, okay, I got to throw him open to help him rather than putting it on his chest. And you guys were absolutely right about the interception. It didn't hurt or lose the game, but it was a crucial interception where you can't have that. And coming to the sideline, I'd be waiting for my guy to come to the sideline. It's like, what are you looking at? I mean, he's in your face. All you have to do is get down. You have nowhere to go. You can't throw it. And y'all were talking about Eli. Eli would slide. He would just go down. He wouldn't even let you get him. He'd just go down because he know he has nowhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll talk to you guys next time. It's always great to
Thank you, Coach.
You too, Coach.
Appreciate the call. And I forgot about that fourth down pass. But, yeah, he did not put that out in front of Slayton as much as he should have.
No question. I think, the one item that also bothered me just a bit too, when we talk about Burrow and his speed and his quickness, talking to some of the guys after the game in the locker room.
Boy, he looks a lot faster a year off that calf injury, huh?
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I know. I don't think, as well as this defense played and this pass rush played well, there were a few times that he made some plays with his escapability.
Agreed.
Which I think, I don't know if it's right to say they underestimated it, But in talking to the guys in the locker room, they were like, "Oh, he's pretty quick." It's part of what makes him who he is.
Remember, he's dealt with some lower body injuries over the last couple of years. And it looks like he's gotten a lot of his quicks back. We saw that with Dak Prescott, right? After he had that bad ankle injury against the Giants the COVID year, right? That it took a couple years for him to get his mobility back. It looks like that's happened with Burrow, and he was moving on that scramble, man. He put the Jets on. I was very impressed. I did not think he had that type of top speed.
Isaiah Simmons was trailing him the whole way and couldn't really close enough to
Simmons
make a play.
Is fast.
He's very fast. And then Pinnock comes over from the other side of the field.
Thought he had an angle.
And
he did not.
No. Burrow just got out his motorcycle and said, "I'm going." And he went.
He did. Jim in New Jersey. He's up next. Hey, Jim.
Hey, John. Hey, Paul. Tough loss, obviously.
Yeah.
I know there's been a lot of talk about this idea. What's the job of the offense? Score points. But, ultimately, in my view, what's the goal of the team? The team is to win games. Now, for me, this kind of comes back to the idea that, a lot of this gets laid at the feet of, the defeat gets laid at the feet of Daniel Jones because they scored 7 points. But, you look at how you're supposed to play supposedly complementary football, and you got a defense that was already down Kayvon Thibodeau that had to bring a front nonstop. They had to go after Burrow because otherwise you're going to get killed, by two of the best receivers in football. So if you look at the stats, and I know 7 is ultimately what we got in terms of points, the Giants' defense was on the field for about 24 minutes. Now the Giants' defense was on the field for about 24 minutes, and the offense was on for about 35, 36 minutes.
Yep.
And that's almost a full quarter that Dexter Lawrence could bring it, that Azeez Ojulari could bring it, that they could do it without that extra quarter of work. So, what if Daniel Jones was Drake May, and he was shooting bombs right and left, right, like he was the other day to Kayshon Boutte and stuff? Well, if those bombs aren't landing in a strong, powerful receiver's hands like Kayshon Boutte, who can push a guy off, but they're being sent to Jalen Hyatt, who, kind of looks like a 13-year-old playing with college kids. He's whacking away desperately and then calling that he's being fouled. Then you quickly turn the ball back over to Joe Burrow. So I feel like Jones, between from the up to the 20, for the 80 middle yards, did his job. He executed an offense that kept the Giants' offense on the field. Did make the one Jones play where he threw the ball up and it got batted and everything. But otherwise, he efficiently drove the offense with what he had to work with. And when you look at Andrew Thomas with the brutal, play-killing, drifting into space penalty, 2 sacks on the blind side. You look at the kicking game disaster. It can't all just be laid on Jones. I mean, I saw him last night, and I felt bad for the guy because he really looked in the post game like, I don't know what. I know Gabe's is trying to be all even-tempered in front of the media, so he doesn't do a 9-minute Joe Judge and he loses his job. But I'm sure inside, Daboll is giving it to this guy. And I just say to you, for all those fans who want to hang him out to dry, Joe Burrow had 2 of the best receivers in football. He couldn't do jack against our defense. They got 2 of their best players back, and we didn't have really much in the way of playmaking there. And I just feel like Jones did what he could to win that game. If you look at the game last week in Seattle, they kept Geno Smith off the field. This week, and his good receivers. This week they did the same thing. But ultimately, when you don't have a Neighbors out there or somebody, constant quick game, which is what you sort of need, it's a tough lift.
Jim, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. The problem, Jim, though, and then Paul, you can go. They only got into the red zone twice. If you can only get into the other team's opposing red zone twice, and one of those ends up being a turnover because of the mistake the quarterback made. So I agree with you. There was some element of moving the ball. The last 4 drives, for example, went 70 yards, 40 yards, 50 yards, and 40 yards. So they were moving the ball all right. Now, in the first half, they only had 1 drive that went over 30 yards. That's a problem for an entire half of football. And they had 5 possessions, and only 1 went more than 30 yards. That's not great. But I get where you're coming from, but it still wasn't enough.
Yeah, Jim, this is why, I don't know if you heard the early part of the program when I said to John, 24 first downs to 13. Look at the time of possession. All right?
Yeah.
The Giants did an awful lot to control the narrative of the game and to follow the blueprint of complementary football to win the game. But then they did an awful lot to not win the game. And that's really what it comes down to, because, look, if you think about this, and I mentioned it to John earlier, that first fourth quarter field goal, and I'm not putting it, plus, trust me, there's blame to go around to everybody on this, including Daniel. Daniel does need to get dinged on this. He should not be hung by his toenails, but he should get dinged on this, okay? But my comment earlier, and I guess you didn't hear it, was they get that first field goal with 10 and a half minutes to go. The game is 10-10.
Yeah.
Who knows how that game plays out if your kicker hits the field goal? Jeff Eagles was always insulted when people ignored the fact that special teams is a third of the game. Well, if you're going to play true complementary football, it's all intertwined, and it really is a third of the game, because every spider web strand leads to another and changes everything.
And Jim, I'll just say this, and then you can finish your point. The Giants' longest play from scrimmage was 15 yards.
Which
and
makes it harder.
And to your point...
It makes it harder.
And Jim, this goes exactly to your point, where you said it's very tough to have to quick game it and dink and dunk with a bunch of 6 and 7 yard gains up and down the field, because eventually something's going to go wrong. That's the entire premise of playing cover 2, cover 4, cover 6, bend but don't break defenses. Eventually, the other team's going to do something to screw up.
Right.
And you score touchdowns by getting explosive plays, whether it was the miss to Robinson deep or their big play that got called back because of the Thomas penalty. They had opportunities to get a couple of those big plays that could have made the difference in this game, and they ended up short-circuiting themselves. Finish up, Jim.
No, look, Paul, I just always think of Hostetler in the Super Bowl, keeping, K-Gun off the field. You know what I'm saying? It's a tough thing to do. You have to have a lot of toughness. I mean, I don't know if you guys, I got used to the broadcast. You heard what Collins said about Daniel Jones. This guy's 9-10 months off an ACL. He's running like, he's Josh Allen, which he isn't. He's built like a basketball player, not a football player.
He's got a lot of heart and a lot of guts. Sometimes too much for his own good.
I'm saying, do I think the guy is a great quarterback? He's one of the top 5? No. But look, there's an endemic problem here. Okay, he really had. Look, why does he go to Slayton at 4th and 2 at the end of the game? Everybody's like, oh, but Wan'Dale Robinson's wide open. Wan'Dale Robinson, who is tough as nails, and I like the guy. He's got the world's smallest catch radius. You're asking a 6'5" quarterback to fire a ball into a tiny catch radius for that guy.
Robinson has also had some crucial. Jim, by the way, Robinson's also had some crucial drops in big spots like that this year too.
Look, I think the guy's tough and rugged, but I'm just saying to you that when you look at the types out there, you guys are always talking about. I think John, you've talked a lot about the idea of a basketball team.
Yep.
You got it right. But here's my thing: this basketball team has Muggsy Bogues as its Wayne Crevette, and it has, I hate to say it, the star of the JV high school team, playing, as speed wideout on the other side.
Well, Jim, it goes back.
Somebody like Paul's talking about, like a fast, a fast Isaiah Hodgins, a big beast who, when Daniel puts the ball up, is going to bring it down. And, you can't just have one, because if he's gone, you're really stuck.
No, Jim, I hear you, man.
Aren't great.
I appreciate the call. No.
There's a lot of change. Thanks.
Good stuff, Jim. Appreciate the call. I want to make sure we get a couple more guys in. Here's the thing, and I said this before. Malik Neighbors makes the team work. He's the basketball team. Like, if you take LeBron off the Lakers, I'm not saying Malik Neighbors is LeBron James. I was using it as an example. Fine, take Jalen Brunson off the Knicks. Doesn't look the same. He's the engine.
He's the headache player.
And I think we didn't feel his loss against Seattle. You felt Malik Neighbors' absence in this game against the Bengals.
Absolutely. See, John and I are actually meshing two concepts here.
And by the way, I think Jim, for the most part, is in agreement with us. I think we're all kind of telling the same story, just in different ways.
I concur. I'm always talking about the spider web and complementary football, and John's always talking about explosive plays. Well, here's the thing. If you get the explosive plays, the complementary football is a lot easier to play,
of course,
because you now have more margin of error. You don't get the explosive plays, your margin of error shrinks all the way down to this. And now complementary football is a lot harder to play.
Andrew in Virginia, he's going to be our final call of the show. Andrew, what's going on, buddy?
I can't believe I got through. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for calling, Andrew. What do you got?
I know you've been up all night thinking about this, John. Why can't the Giants get this done at home in prime time? Why are we so bad in these big spots? And what do we have to change here? Because this team, it sucks you back in. We're close, and then we're so far away. What do we have to do to get better and get over this hump? Why are they lousy at home? And why in under the lights do we stink? That's it.
Andrew, that is the $1 million question right now. We talked about this on the postgame show last night for a good 45 minutes or an hour. Casillas, Dottino, myself, Banks chipped in, Papa chipped in. None of us have an answer. I don't know. And the primetime issues, by the way, they go back a lot further than this quarterback and this head coach.
They do.
They go back a long way now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a great answer for you. But if this team, to your point, wants to get over the hump, it has to change. You can't score 1 touchdown in 3 home games. You can't lose every primetime game you play, except for one in the last, whatever.
See, the home game thing bothers me much more than the primetime thing.
100% agree. I'm with you.
Right. And, look, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, folks. There is a home hotel that coaches will put their teams in and say, okay, guys, got a home game. Saturday, everybody goes to the home team hotel. And that's to get away from distractions and make sure that you're focused and you're a group. This goes on around the league predominantly. I don't know if every team does it. I can't say all 32 do it.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I don't know that, but it's been going on for years here, okay? There's a home team hotel. So it's not like the guys are hanging out with their feet up, a cigar and a beer and a bunch of pretzels and popcorn and watching MTV till all hours of the morning before the game. They're not doing that.
MTV?
They still have that, don't they?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. My point is
fantastic
that, there is a home team hotel. So these coaches do try to do what they need to do to give them a conducive environment to focus on the game. I don't know what else you can do.
No, I don't. Look, I don't know. Look, I think part of the issue is this. Just from a logistics standpoint, what teams do you generally play on primetime?
Well, your marquee teams.
You play the other best teams in the league.
Or marquee players.
Correct. And when you're not a very good team, and the Giants for the last 10 years have not been a very good team, or 8 years going back to 2016, right? They haven't been a very good team. So when you play the best opponents, the chances of you winning those games are slimmer.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way it goes, right? You're playing better teams, it's going to be tougher. But it's going to have to improve. And I think the frustrating part for me, and I wasn't sure if it was Jim or if it was Andrew, was that from Andrew from Virginia, made the point, this team, it sucked me in. I was sucked in. Like
I had them winning by 10 points last night. I think I got sucked in too.
You're never out. You're permanently sucked in. But look, the team has played pretty good football. Their 2 losses prior to this game came against the 2 best teams in the conference, or 2 of the best teams in the conference. Minnesota's the only undefeated team, and the Commanders only had 2 of the only 3 teams with just 1 loss heading into this week.
Right.
Those are the 2 teams the Giants' losses came to, one of which was on the road in Washington, D.C. against the Commanders, right? You won in Seattle, a tough road game. You should have beat the Commanders if you didn't lose, losing the kicker's part of it, but also just not converting in the red zone. You had every chance to beat Dallas. Again, your red zone conversion stunk in that game. And we've talked about in the offseason, red zone success and failure tends to even out over the long period of time, right? That's one of those things that can fluctuate wildly from game to game, but eventually it'll even out. So this team is better than they've been, but they've come up in 1-score games. And even though this Bengal game, you look back at it, it looks like a 2-score game when the game's said and done. This was a 1-score game. Yeah. It was a 1-score game the whole game. It was a 1-score game.
Yeah.
They're in it. The same thing in the Cowboy game, the same thing in the Commander game. They had every opportunity to win those games.
Sure.
And they were not able to make a few plays here or there in critical spots to put them over the top, or they made critical mistakes in big spots that cost them opportunities. And you look at the standings, the Commanders are 4-2, the Eagles are 3-2, the Cowboys are 3-3, and the Giants are 2-4. Even with everything I just went through, they're just 2 games behind the Commanders, a half game behind the Philadelphia Eagles, a game and a half behind the Eagles, and 1 game behind the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
This thing is tight, all right? It's not over now. They're still in it. Now you got your other, demon coming into town next week. If it's not the Cowboys, it's the Eagles. And now this is it was already, but now it's an even more important game because you don't want to fall further behind in the standings. So you're right. Fans are understandably sucked in because they're playing better. The offensive line's competent. The defense has played well. The quarterback strung together 4 games where he had only 1 interception, which came on a Hail Mary, and it's 6 touchdowns. And all 4 games he threw for more than 200 yards.
And had them in position to win.
It was one of his better streaks of his career. Then you have primetime at home against the Bengals, and everything you did well the last few weeks, not everything, but a lot of the things you did well the last few weeks, you can't do well against a defense that has been, frankly, poor for most of this year.
Scuffled along.
It's really, really, really frustrating.
I told a friend of mine this morning, I said, look, of these last 3 losses, and again, I'm discounting Minnesota because that's what it was, but I felt that the Giants should have beaten Dallas and Washington. They could have beaten Cincinnati. There's a different level there for me. I felt they played better against Dallas and Washington and should have won those games.
They played better. They played better offensively in those 2 games. They played better defensively in this game, and that's not close.
They did. I agree with that. But I think my general perception of their ability to win because of the special teams failures. Last night, I felt like that was a coulda. The other 2 were shouldas.
How many games the last 2 years have kicking issues been a reason the Giants have lost games? It's been very frustrating.
This is why we can't underestimate special teams, and so many people take reliable kickers for granted until they're out of the lineup. And then all of a sudden, it's like the long snapper.
Having a good closer in baseball.
The long snapper, the return guy, the punter, the kicker. Boy, do you miss them and do you ache when those guys are gone.
Especially in close games.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And I have no idea what the Giants' kicking plans are for this Philadelphia game coming up because that's something that needs to be addressed.
Matthew Hawk was pretty good. I thought he did a nice job punting. He had 1 low-line drive that I was a little worried might get returned, but there was good coverage on the play.
Absolutely agree.
But other than that, I thought he was okay.
Absolutely agree. I'm talking not so much about the punting.
I know.
I'm talking about the kicking.
I just wanted to give Matthew Hawk some credit.
No question.
And I got to. I don't know if I told you before the game. He actually went to my wife's high school in Des Moines.
Yes, you did tell me that.
So my wife's best friend's dad was his principal at Dowling High School in West Des Moines, Iowa.
And somebody asked Dabo last night about the holds on the 2 field goals. If you watch the tape, the holds look good.
Oh, yeah, they were fine.
And the laces were the right way and everything. I did not see any issue with the holds on either of those 2 kicks.
Paul, we'll see you back here with us on Friday with Matt previewing Giants and Eagles. And
I have nothing else to add.
Great reaction. I will be with you tomorrow with Matthew Sytak. Wednesday will be Manolin and O'Hara, and then I will be with Sytak again on Thursday. Taking your calls right here on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Of course, you can find Big Blue Kickoff Live on favorite podcast platforms, Giants.com/podcast and the Giants mobile app. And this week, if you want to check out some Giants highlights and all of our content, download Giants TV. Has all our content on it, game highlights, on demand, direct to Big Blue fans. It's free on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. And if you're looking for tickets, there probably are some individual tickets left. I don't even know. Go find out if there are tickets. Giants.com/tickets. There could be stuff there. I don't know. Go check it out.
Just don't let Philly people get them, okay?
Yeah, I was not thrilled. There were too many Bengal people in the stands last night, by the way.
There was a woman with a young child in the front row, a little bit about 5 or 10 yards to the north of the Giants bench last night. And on the last possession, Jones did take 1 sack, didn't he, on the last possession? Where he took a hit?
Yeah, sure.
And the little kid
Oh, no, what did he say?
is screaming, "Get him! Get him! Get him!"
How old is this kid?
The little kid must have been about 12 years old.
Okay, so he's not that little.
And
Okay.
get him! Get him! And the mother's like, "Yeah, yeah." She's cheering on the little kid. And I'm just like as quiet as a mouse.
So
I'm
it was just like
okay.
you and your daughter in the stands watching the game when she was 12 or 13 years old. You cheering for LT.
That's a lot of years ago.
All right, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
12:30, another Big Blue Kickoff Live.
CBS Thursday. Academy Award winner Kathy Bates stars as Matlock in the new CBS original series that critics are calling brilliantly witty, with great storytelling and a suspenseful joyride. You won't be able to take your eyes off Kathy Bates in this reimagining of the original classic. Madeline Matlock is rejoining the workforce at a prestigious law firm and using her unassuming demeanor and wily tactics to win cases and hide a secret from everyone around her. The next great CBS mystery, Matlock, continues with a new episode Thursday, 9/8 Central on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
Zyn nicotine pouches deliver nicotine satisfaction anywhere, anytime, which means Zyn pairs well with you, your personality, your schedule, and your spontaneity. Zyn fits easily into your bag, pocket, and into your life because it's smoke-free, hands-free, and hassle-free. So the only person who will know you have a Zyn pouch in is you. Visit Zyn.com or head to your local convenience store today to find your Zyn. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.